But that one might take a while. This, one, I don't know. She's in. Senator, Representative Pat, come on up. We already did McPherson. Representative Peck, HB 209, Substitute 2, Homeless Amendments. Time is yours.
Thank you.
Oh.
Is this on?
Homeschool. I said homeless. I didn't mean to do that. I apologize. I know everybody's here, and I just blew
you better
that.
apologize to the crowd.
One moment, and I blew it. Let's just rewind.
Well,
Can
we
we
are
rewind?
in judiciary after all,
God.
right? It's a totally different.
I'm going to restate. We're just pretending that didn't happen. HB 209, second sub, homeschool amendments. Oh,
Okay.
time is yours.
Normally, you'd think this would be in education, but we are in judiciary today, and we're happy to be here. I am going to be speaking to a third sub and an amendment also to that sub. We were just working so fast to get that third sub out that there needed to be a couple of other tweaks that happened on that amendment to that sub. So if you can just look at that part, and I'll try to speak to this pretty quickly. I know that you've probably had a lot of conversations about this bill and people participating on this bill, and that's partially because it turns out that on the day that we're doing this bill, it happens to be homeschool day on the Hill. And that's why there's all these people here who are participating with the bill today. For my presentation, I do have somebody online who I would like to promote, if we could do that. Her name is Elizabeth Medina. So I'll be referring to her in just a moment. But just a quick backstory on the reason why this bill is happening.
Is it Elizabeth Madrid?
Medina?
Or
Do you see an Elizabeth Medina on there?
there's Elizabeth Madrid?
Madrid? Could it be Madrid? Sorry. Madrid would be the one.
Okay.
See
right.
that?
We'll
Sorry.
promote it. Yeah.
Okay, we've got her ready to go on standby.
Senator Escamilla, hold on. Let me turn your mic on.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chair. I do see your third sub, but I don't see any more amendments, so I want to make sure you're prepped to, if there are amendments, I can't see them. I see the sub 3.
If you click sub 3, it should be under that. The amendment should be under the sub 3. That's where I'm seeing it. Maybe refresh, because it just barely popped in.
Okay. Are you guys seeing it?
Just
Okay.
give me a second here.
Okay. So it says House Amendment 1, is that what it is?
Yes,
I need
that's
to
it.
clarify. Are you going to be speaking to sub 3 with the
With
amendment?
the amendment one, yes.
So in the Senate, we do things a little bit different.
That would be-
Okay.
Okay, so we'll typically move what you want to speak to
Yes.
and
let's do that.
additionally amend. So I'll leave it up to
Of
Senator
course,
Escamilla.
yeah, I will do that.
Okay.
Make a motion, Mr. Chair, to delete in body and title, second substitute HB 209 and replace it with third substitute House Bill 209.
That motion will be order. I'll place it. The motion is to delete and title of body HB 209, second substitute homeschool amendments, and replace it with HB 209, third substitute homeschool amendments. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add, and I've had a chance to talk to the representative, and thank you for your time, Representative, but also, I know Senator Fillmore wanted to make sure this language was added, so
That's right.
I'm supportive of moving this piece, and should be part of that conversation.
And I'm assuming you're in favor of that motion?
Yes, that's why it's happening. There was a few concerns. and
Okay,
we
I'll
cleared
place that
those up.
motion. I'll place that motion. The motion is to delete and title and body HB 209, second substitute homeschool amendments, and replace it with HB 209, third substitute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? I rule that motion passed unanimously. Now we are on the third substitute. Now
Into
there's also an amendment, so Senator Escamilla, if you'd like to
Thank
address
you,
that.
Mr. Chair. Make a motion that we support amendment number 1 and add it to third substitute HB 209.
That motion would be in order. The motion would be to move House Amendment number 1 to HB 209, third substitute homeschool amendments. Would you like to speak to that?
No, it's pretty clear on that.
Okay. Wade, would you like to speak to that?
Just to thank the senator for doing that.
Okay. I'll restate the motion for the vote. Motion is to move House Amendment number 1 on the system to HB 209, third substitute homeschool amendments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, I rule that motion passed unanimously. We are now on the third substitute as amended. So
Okay.
proceed.
Thank you, Senator and Mr. Chair Pro Tem. So this whole bill came about because there was a bill that was passed in 2023 that I actually spoke in favor of at the time, just as a citizen. And the bill said that if you've been convicted of child abuse, that you can't homeschool your children. And that was something that I thought, of course, that makes complete sense. It didn't have a lot of teeth in it to really do anything because all of the actual legal things that would combat child abuse are in the sections of child abuse code. They're not in this section of code. But it was just making a statement. And the statement turned out to not really accomplish the point of the bill that it was made for. But it did accomplish some unforeseen circumstances, which, occasionally can happen up here. We're trying to do the best we can, but sometimes things happen. And so there were a couple of districts in the state who interpreted this piece of language to mean that they needed to background check parents. And we're going to hear in a moment from Elizabeth, and she'll tell about her situation. We might hear from a few other parents too, who had that type of experience. And they were very worried about this. They've been homeschooling their children for a long time and wondering, why is this happening? And so they started contacting their attorneys, Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and those people then started reaching out to members of the school board, who then started reaching out to me and also other representatives in the House. And so we went back to the bill sponsor from the original bill from 2023, and he said, you know what, that was actually a mistake. It didn't accomplish the whole intent of that. It did nothing, and it looks like it's caused more problems than it's worth, so let's go ahead and remove that. So that's what that's doing. And then we've had a law for homeschool in the state to have an affidavit that was done one time, and the affidavit is not notarized. It's not like a binding document per se. It's just like a notification type thing that they file in a filing cabinet. Nothing happens with it. We're just changing that to make it so that if you're dual enrolling, so you're homeschooling, but then you're also going to take a class or two at the school, you don't have to fill out a fresh letter of intent or inform them again. So, and we're changing some of the language there, so it's just that we're giving a notification, just so that the districts can have something on hand, a record on hand of people that notify. For the record, not everybody does notify, okay? And I happen to know that, which is why we had the original version. Okay, just want to read really quickly a statement from Homeschool Legal Defense. They tried to be here today for this, but their flight went out a little bit too early for this late of a meeting and this late on the schedule in the meeting. And so I said that I would read their statement, and then we'll hear from Elizabeth, and then that will probably conclude my comments. So this is from Peter Kay from Homeschool Legal Defense. It says, I'm an attorney for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, where I assist homeschooling families from across the country and regularly interact with families who are homeschooling in Utah. Some are starting for the first time, others have been doing it for years, and still others are transferring from one other school mid-year. Nothing in HB 209 alters, changes, or repeals anything in the listed criminal statutes which would still remain on the books. Persons who are convicted of those heinous crimes would still be incarcerated, separating them perhaps for life from their child victims. DCFS's ability to conduct investigations of child abuse and neglect would also be untouched. The courts could continue to exercise jurisdiction over children who are abused and neglected as they do now, and nothing would bar a court of competent jurisdiction from preventing convicted parents from homeschooling their children, if doing so would place those children at risk. What would change is that parents who haven't done anything wrong, who homeschool because they love their children and want what's best for them, can do so without being treated as suspects. And that's really basically what we're doing here in this bill. So I do have Elizabeth who wants to share her experience. I think it would be enlightening so that you kind of give more of a context of what happened here and what led to this, and then that will conclude my comments.
Thank you. Elizabeth, is she online?
She's online.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
promote her.
We can
For
hear
everyone-
you.
Everyone's benefit, I just presented another committee, so I just came running back. But my bill passed, so that's good news.
Good job. Worth it.
So Elizabeth, can you just tell us your name and what county you live in?
Yes, my name is Elizabeth Madrid, and I'm located in Davis County.
Oh, I love that county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak to the committee this afternoon. I'm here today asking you to support HB 209 and vote yes on this bill. Last spring, I submitted an affidavit using the HSLDA template to the Davis School District stating that my daughter would be homeschooled and would not be entering the school system for kindergarten. Our affidavit was rejected by the Davis School District with the explanation dated April 30th, 2024, that Utah state law has changed. Homeschool affidavits must now have the question of whether the parent or guardian has been convicted of child abuse. I reached out to the HSLDA to verify that their affidavit template was indeed up to date. Counsel from the HSLDA became involved and reached out to the Davis School District on my family's behalf, as there had been no changes to the affidavit laws. After HSLDA intervention, the Davis School District backed off their position that they would not accept our affidavit, but they maintained that they needed to confirm under state law whether we were on any child abuse registry before they could issue the acknowledgement letter. That was June 12th of 2024. It took an additional 92 days from the date that they said they were backing off their rejection and multiple points of contact from the HSLDA to the Davis School District before we received our exemption certificate, which came September 11th, 2024, after the beginning of the new school year. 135 days spanning the entire summer before the school year started and into the new school year. Anxiety, frustration, all on both my family's side and I'm sure on the school district side as well, over an affidavit that met all legal requirements. My family is law-abiding and love our children fiercely. This school district was trying to follow the law as they understood it and was trying to do right by laws meant to protect the children. But because of the ambiguity in the way that the law was written, unnecessary stress occurred on both sides. If the measures that were outlined in HB 209 were in place last year, this issue would not have occurred and all parties involved would have been better for it. Please vote yes for HB 209. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Representative Peck, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, I just want to the room, because we have so many people here today, to just let them know that brevity gets points in a committee, and that if something's already been said, don't redo it, and to try to just keep in mind that fatigue is a real thing on a part of people who are up here on the committee, so that if we're just patient with them. And other than that, that
Yes.
concludes my presentation. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. I do have one light from Senator Escamilla. Senator Escamilla?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I will be voting over the phone because I have a joint
Well, that's
leadership
fine. Yeah.
meeting right now and I'm late already. But I do want to make a comment, and I want to first appreciate everyone that has been engaged very respectfully. All and like you said, it coincide with the day of homeschool at the Hill. And also to the sponsor, thank you for reaching, and I've done my due diligence, and I think you're correct. I think the unintended consequences of the bill 2 years ago, and we do that all the time. We fix what, it was a well-intended piece of legislation by the representative in your body, and, you know, I will say this kind of like brought some concerns initially, and part of it is, as I shared with you, that I serve on the Child Welfare Commission, which is probably one of the most difficult committees I've ever served in my 17 years here. And of course, the case of Gavin Peterson's case, death in his case, and the Ruby Frankie's, situation, could put like this highlight on a situation, but it shouldn't be utilized as a blanket statement to loving parents that are making a choice in their education of their children. And I appreciate that we've had the conversation. I will say I think we need to do more, because we've seen also some individuals that are trying to find ways to be predators and abusers use homeschool as an ability to do that, but it doesn't reflect on the rest of the homeschool community, and we shouldn't pass bills on that piece and impact everyone else. So it is a delicate balance, like I've mentioned before, and we do need to do more and find red flags when it's utilized in that way. But I appreciate the work on your bill. I know in your time, and I'll be supporting it over the phone as I'm running to the Capitol. But I wanted to be on the record that more will come with regards to the child welfare piece, and and making sure that all children are safe. But your bill is moving in the right direction to make sure that parents should be treated with respect and not be putting a highlight of abusers when that's not what we're trying to do here. So thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me this opportunity.
Thank you. All right, so, so this is how it's gonna go. We got two more bills, and we're gonna lose a quorum if we go too late. So, first of all, I want everybody to listen carefully. Raise your hand only if you're here to testify against House Bill 209. So I've got two. How many online? Okay, those of you online, lower your hand if you're in favor of the bill. I'm only asking against the bill. They're both saying adamant. So, okay, so we're gonna have 4 people testify against the bill, and I'm gonna allow only 4 to testify in favor of it. Now, just to be fair, because you can vote with your face, all of you that are here in favor of the bill, I'd like you to stand up so everyone on the committee can see you. Okay, so stay standing so everybody can see you. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you, if we had all of you get up and kind of repeat the same talking points, you wouldn't make any friends today. So we can see that you're all here for it. I'm going to let you guys decide which 4 testify in favor of the bill. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm only open up for 4. Now, everybody sit back down. Thank you. So I can see the vast majority of you are in favor of the bill. And we've gotten your texts, we've gotten your emails, we've gotten your phone calls. I promise we have. So what we're going to do is there's 2 seats there. And if you're sitting in the audience, the seat on the right, I'm going to make for the bill. And so I'll let 4 people testify from the seat on the right, on your right. The seat on the left, which is my right, I'm going to have 4 against the bill. So we'll have 2 people in person testify against the bill, and then I'll allow 2 people online to testify against the bill. I think Lacey knows who they are. So can I get someone for and someone against to come forward and take those seats? Now, there's one last instruction, and this is important. Everyone that has to testify has to sign in, but we're not going to wait for you to sign in. So you sign in when the other person's talking, and then we're not waiting for anyone. So, so we've got someone for. I'll start with her, and then as soon as she drops that pen, ma'am, I want you to sign in. So by the time you start talking, you're already signed in. And then when you come up, you need to grab that and sign in while the other person's talking. Okay, so I'm going to give each of you 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Nina Wolf. I am here representing the You Hope Coalition, which is comprised of home education organizations from across Utah. And before I say anything else, I would really like to thank the members of this committee for your time and patience. I know you've been flooded with messages and communication all day and probably for several days. And I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us and to hear our concerns.
Can you tell us how many members you have in your You Hope organization?
You Hope, we have, over 30 homeschool organizations from across the state. So it is a comprehensive coalition. As we've looked at this bill, one of the main concerns that we had was that the language in the code associating heinous crimes against children in the same area of code that regulates homeschooling, it presents an association in the minds of those who are reading this code. It makes it look as if this is expected and associated with homeschooling, which we absolutely reject. As we've looked at the cases, both the ones that have been mentioned in Utah and also those that have been referenced in materials sent to this committee from other organizations, these were not authentically home educating families. What we see as a pattern is that you have a family who is under investigation for abuse or neglect, and they try to avoid the investigation by withdrawing from the school system to supposedly homeschool. That should be a red flag for anybody conducting an abuse investigation, because that is a pattern that can be recognized. It in no way reflects upon the home educators who are going about this in the normal process. We care about children, or we would not be doing this. Trust me, it's a lot of work. And the only reason we do this is because we care about welfare of our children and of other children in this state. And we would appreciate it very much if we would have 209 supported so that we can strike the criminal references from the homeschool area and leave them in the criminal area of the code where they
Okay,
belong.
I need you to wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, members of the committee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Rachel Marshall. I'm a resident of Sandy, Utah, and a former homeschooled student. Due to the lack of requirements from the school board and the state, my education and safety were at the mercy of my parents' ability to function. All deteriorated due to their mental illness, addiction, and abusive relationship. As a mental health therapist, I know that isolation is a red flag for abuse, and homeschooling is inherently an isolation risk. As a mother and an advocate for children's rights, I cannot support this. If HB 209 were to pass into law, parents would no longer have to attest to a criminal history when they're notifying their school district of their intent to homeschool, removing one of the few safeguards protecting homeschool children in Utah. Children have a right to safety, and the state has a duty to protect that right. Please make homeschooling safe and vote against HB 209. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Caleb Jackson. I testify on my own behalf and on behalf of the Utah Christian Homeschool Association. I was born and raised here in Utah and homeschooled all the way through high school. I have experience after that in all three branches of government, including an internship here with Eagle Forum in the Utah State Legislature, an internship with the Domestic Policy Council in the Trump White House, and now I work in the legal profession back here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I have 3 kids and a 4th on the way and intend to homeschool all of them. The attorney who defended the British soldiers in the Boston Massacre said that it is more important to protect the innocent than to punish the guilty. That attorney was John Adams. And that is why HB 209 is necessary. It removes the wrongful association of homeschooling at large with child abuse. It clarifies roles in education and disallows background checks of homeschoolers that would take place as a matter of course. Homeschooling, on the other hand, is good for society. Homeschoolers pay taxes but do not receive any of those funds that are earmarked for education, or very little. Many of our founding fathers and others who shaped our country, like Teddy Roosevelt, were homeschooled. And finally, as our Constitution in Utah recognizes, parents are ultimately responsible for their children's education, not the state. Finally, there was a study published on SSRN in 2022 that found, and this is not to say that one education system is better than the other, it is merely to point out a fact in the current patterns that we see. It says, those who attended public school were 2.57 times more likely, with statistical significance, to have been sexually abused than the homeschooled. The current statute essentially has no teeth, but it puts pressure on homeschool parents, so I urge you to pass HB 209. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Roxanne
Pull that.
Johnson.
I need you to pull that microphone up like you're going to kiss it, but don't kiss it, because that would be awkward.
How's that?
That's much better.
Hello, my name is Roxanne Johnson, and I was homeschooled for 2 years. As a resident of Utah, I strongly oppose HB 209. Due to the minimal policies to protect homeschool children, my education and safety was neglected, my child labor exploited, and there was no one to look out for me and my mental and physical well-being. I developed severe depression, was malnourished, and denied medical care. I can attest that abuse happens in homeschooling, even in religious environments. It is vital that we take every opportunity to stop it when we can. When the parent does not have their children's best interest at heart and are isolated by homeschooling, they have no protections. The U.S. hasn't even signed the Bill of Rights for the Child. HB 209 removes the requirement for parents to attest to their criminal history, enabling child abusers to isolate and harm children. I urge you to recognize the harm these policy exemptions cause to our most vulnerable and valuable population, and to acknowledge the troubling connection between rolling back protections for homeschooling children at the same time rolling back child labor laws that enable this abuse and child abuse.
All right. Thank you for testifying and sharing your story. I know that's scary and intimidating at times. I'm especially intimidating. So anyway, that was a joke. Sir, you're next.
Good evening. My name is Ken Braboncourt. I'm a resident of Riverton, a retired Army colonel, the president of the Utah Homeschool Association, and a homeschooling father for 21 years. So I am here to speak in favor of this bill, and I thank Representative Nicolene Peck, and I thank the members of the committee and the Congress here in Utah for the great homeschool freedoms that we have. One of the big concerns that I've seen as we've homeschooled our children is that there continues to be an effort to undermine parental rights and to use situations and circumstances that are not representative of homeschooling. Gavin Peterson is the perfect example. The tragic situation that happened with the death of young Gavin Peterson has been used to undermine homeschooling. It's important to note that Gavin Peterson was a public school child, and caring professional school teachers and professionals noted the issue there. He was reported to the state. His parents withdrew him. His parents were not homeschool children, or not homeschoolers, and they do not represent homeschoolers in the state of Utah. The situation with Ruby Frank, it was not a situation where a homeschool family was undercover. So they were on Instagram talking these things. These people truly have committed crimes. They were caught and they have paid a penalty. It is important to note that homeschool children as a whole, through peer-reviewed studies that have gone in detail, outperform public school children in the workplace or in the school place when it comes to standardized testing. The other thing that is important to note, and I have detailed research here, and I will tell you there was very little research that indicated that being done on abuse for homeschool versus public school children, but the research that has been done, peer-reviewed and detailed data suggests that there is absolutely no indication that homeschool children face any greater separation or risks. And I have that if you would be willing to look at that data. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to go online. Are you against or for? See, you're in the against chair, so you're going to have to flip over to the other chair. But we're going to go, sorry, I got to turn that off. We're going to go, I have a certain method. We're going to go online for the next against, and then you'll be next, ma'am. So Eve, can you turn on your camera and tell us what county you live in?
Hi, I'm a resident of Virginia, actually.
Okay, that's fine. Can you tell us your first and last name and if you're representing an organization?
My name is Eve Ettinger, and I am a board member at the Coalition for Responsible Home Education.
Okay, you've got 2 minutes.
The Coalition for Responsible Home Education, CRHE, is the only organization in the country founded and run by homeschool graduates that advocates for laws to protect homeschool children. I'm a homeschool alum as well. We strongly oppose HB 209 because this bill removes a protection currently in the Utah law, and child abusers, as we have seen, do exploit homeschool laws to hide their heinous behavior. CRHE maintains a database called Homeschooling's Invisible Children, which has tracked about 500 cases of extreme child abuse and neglect in homeschool settings across the country. We constantly see how child abusers use homeschooling as a guise to isolate children from the teachers, coaches, other children, and parents they would encounter in school. And that's what happened to Gavin Peterson last year. He was withdrawn from school to be homeschooled in spite of multiple child welfare reports, and he died from severe chronic physical abuse and neglect. Some say this bill harms no one because Utah's law prohibiting convicted child abusers from homeschooling is not enforced as is. That's wrong. School districts throughout the state require affidavits affirming that a homeschool parent has not been convicted of child abuse. And even if enforcement efforts are lacking in some areas, that is a reason to improve enforcement, not a reason to strip homeschool children of much needed protections. Preventing convicted child abusers from homeschooling is just common sense. Utah's current homeschool law does just that, and it's a common sense obstacle to those who might be operating in bad faith. Please oppose HB 209 to ensure that known abusers cannot exploit homeschooling to further isolate and abuse children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and now our last one in favor. I
My
think.
name is Brooke Stevens, and I'm the Civic Engagement Director for Utah Moms for America. And I'm speaking in favor of this bill. I was a preventive social worker in New York, and I worked with families before their children would go to protective services. And I saw that the system does work. I wish it worked way better than it did, but we do have a system to protect children. I also adopted 4 children from the foster care system who were abused. So I know that we have a system for education and we have a system for the protection of children. And if a parent is not able to take care of their child, then why are they in the home? So it doesn't really make sense to me that you have to sign an affidavit if you still have your child in your home. So let me see. We have departments and provisions to prevent child abuse. We have systems to educate. If parents can do one, then they can do the other. The schools are not trained or equipped to determine this. They are mandated reporters. I was also a teacher. If the child is unsafe, DFS will remove the child. So when we don't want to mix educational systems with protective systems. It's a scare tactic that will lead to more government control. So please vote for HB 209.
Thank you very much. And then we will do our last public comment online from Adelaide. Adelaide, can you turn on your camera and tell us where you live, like county or state? If it's Utah County, otherwise a state.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me just start my video really quick. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adelaide Hintz. I live in Salt Lake County. I was homeschooled from 1993 to 2005, and I strongly oppose HB 029. As a homeschooler, I suffered multiple forms of abuse as a failure to learn meant punishment. During these years, I was not required to come in contact with mandated reporters outside of my home, and there was not a checks and balances system to ensure my safety. The sad reality is lax homeschooling laws enable abusers, and it's highly unlikely that you're going to hear testimony from homeschooling parents asking for stronger regulation. So as a homeschooled kid, I'm asking for that. We cannot overlook this problem. Just because a homeschool parent would rather not submit a piece of paperwork. An affidavit is literally the bare minimum to help mitigate the risk of abuse and neglect because, yes, abused homeschooled kids exist and they deserve your protection. Please do not ignore this fact. And it starts with voting no on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the committee for further discussion and a motion. Senator Baldry.
I just want to say that the presumption of innocence and our Fifth Amendment and our U.S. Constitution is fundamentally what makes us American. This is something unique in our country, that we're presumed innocent. And this bill addresses that. So I want to thank the sponsor for bringing this bill forward. And also, if you would allow me, I could also make a motion.
Yeah, please
Okay.
proceed.
With that, I would move that we recommend with a favorable recommendation, I believe it's the third substitute.
Yeah.
Right? Is that right? Okay.
As amended.
It is the third
Third
substitute,
substitute, House Bill 209 to the full body of the Senate.
as amended.
As amended.
Discussion to the motion. Seeing none. Representative Peck, would you like to make a short summation?
Someone wanted to
Oh,
say.
we have a motion, but Senator Musselman.
Yeah, first, maybe if I was homeschooled, I could have actually pronounced homeschooled and not mispronounced it like I did at the beginning of the presentation. So I'm apologizing still for that. That was a bad moment. But I think there may be, a circumstance where we could find something that would be effective. But I'm just trying to look at this from a purely practical standpoint. And for instance, when the last individual that spoke, it's almost counterintuitive that the kids are at home, and then an affidavit or a background check, I mean, they're already at home. It seems counterintuitive to require just to home teach or homeschool. I struggle with that. I just don't think that that's actually going to do anything. And in fact, as I look at some other circumstances, it appears that it wouldn't have prevented some of the cases that that are high profile because they didn't have anything in their backgrounds. So there would have been nothing to find. So I'm not saying that there isn't something out there, but I don't think that's it. And this seems like a reasonable approach to allow individuals the freedom to teach their children as they see fit.
Okay, thank you. So you're speaking in favor of the motion. I don't see any other lights, so Representative Peck, would you like to make a short summation?
I will. Quickly. It was mentioned in one of the comments that our Constitution does say that parents have the responsibility for the education of their children. That's why we get report cards and those types of things, because they're reporting to us as parents. And so I do think that this keeps in alignment with that part of our Constitution, and it is a good thing. We heard a lot of heartfelt testimony, those for, those against, and certainly there are going to be bad actors everywhere. For many, many years, I took in troubled children who were abused, and not one of them was homeschooled. They were all at the public school. And there is no data that says definitively that homeschoolers are more abusive than public schoolers, and if so, I would highly scrutinize it and question it, because I've been looking at that data for quite some time now, and it just doesn't seem to fully exist. And so while there are bad actors and bad circumstances that can occur and could even be heartbreaking, as we know with some of these high-profile cases, I also do know the grit, the sacrifice, the love that homeschoolers have for their children. I'm sorry, I get a little emotional because this is personal to me. I never planned on homeschooling, yet I did for 4 of my children. And it was, bar none, one of the best things that we ever did for our family, for unity, and for the love of education. And so I'm just so grateful for everyone's time and here on the committee and all of the tireless effort that we put into this bill today, and I just appreciate your support.
Thank you. Senator Boulder, are you okay waiving?
I'll waive.
All in favor of the motion to favorably recommend third substitute House Bill 209 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
209 as amended, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Chair rules that passes unanimously, 7-0. Senator McKellar, you ready to present your bill? Thank you, everyone.